I didn't really do a lot of video on cutting and measuring and all that. I think that's kind of tedious and not really necessary. Okay, so here's the bed platform. So this is 33 inches to the bottom of here, and that's just big enough for my slides, the shelf, and the bicycles to fit underneath. It's a double-sized bed, so 54 inches across this way, and I have it braced in the corners here. Now I just need a way to attach it to the side here, so probably what I'll do is run a post like right next to here and then just attach. Same on that side. I've added some support here to keep the water tank from moving. I'll use this area here probably for maybe like a dirty clothes bin where I can just lift this up and put the dirty clothes in there. Water pump and will be over in this area. I'm not going to put my hot water heater here because I want it closer to the shower, and the shower is going to be here, and then I'm going to have a sink over here. So I kind of want it to be right here so that when it heats it up, I'm not having to run a bunch of water through a long line to get hot water. So that'll reduce some of the water waste. To attach it to the van, I have these little pieces of Delrin. I bought it off McMaster Car. 7.0 Savage bought this thing, and I thought, oh, that's a good idea. So it's a 4-foot bar, and it was like $100. So it's expensive, but you'll get a lot of these little brackets here, and it gives me some thermal isolation from here. It's not perfect because I have a bolt or a nut on the back of this, and then the bolt is touching the aluminum. So this is much cooler than the wall of the van, but it is a little warmer. You know, as I get further away from it, I can feel the aluminum cooling down. So there still is some, but it's definitely noticeable, the difference. So this one I just put through an existing hole. That one back there I had to drill, you know, just based on my my layout. You could maneuver this middle bar, you know, based on that if you want to avoid drilling, and then you'd have another hole there to put it in. But I already made this in the middle. I added some extra support beams in between. Originally I had 4 big large holes, but I just put some in here. I staggered the corners, so this one is opposite this one so that it doesn't want it, you know, when you twist on it, it doesn't want to flop. See, like these here, if I were to put a bunch of weight on them, they would twist that way. And since it's at the very edge of the bed, I doubt that'll ever happen. Same here, I have it nice and braced. I probably could have got away with just doing opposite corner, but it's nice and sturdy. Another thing to think about when you're doing 80-20 is you don't want, especially these vertical pieces where, like on the bed, I don't want heavy things supported on just that little tiny nut there. I want some kind of support to hold it up. This won't be a heavy area here. It's probably going to be for a laundry bin where we'll just open the bin, or open the top and stick it in here, and then over on this side I'll probably have my pump. I did the same thing on this side. Put the Delrin in there, got a bolt on the back of it. This will be my electrical side. The batteries are going to be up here, which are kind of heavy, so like I said, I don't want to support the weight of the batteries with this little bracket here. So my plan is to put another post coming straight down to just give it some more rigidity and support. Same thing with here. I cut here and have the long support going all the way through. The other side is not cut, but that gives me some downward pressure on here If it was just these little brackets, then you're only relying on the strength of that T-nut to keep it from moving. And so I have 3 50-pound batteries that are going to go on here, so that's 150 pounds. So you want to make sure that you're pushing down against something sturdy, and then this will go all the way to the floor. I do plan on having some more down on the bottom here, so I preloaded the brackets. That's mostly just to like trap a panel or something in here, and then I'll bolt this to the floor. I'm also going to work on bolt this to the floor, and that's one of the things with 80/20s is you got to kind of plan all your brackets as much as possible so that you don't have to use those little slip-in nuts. So these are great if it's already installed and you don't want to break it all apart. These little flip-in T-nuts, they just basically just slide in like that, and then you just push them in, and then they'll fit in something that's already locked down. But they're more expensive, so these are like $1.10 a piece, whereas the basic ones are like 20 cents. So you'll save you could do, if you have a lot of money, you could do all of these and not worry about it, but I wouldn't recommend doing that just because of the cost. It'll really dramatically increase your costs. I got these corner brackets from T-Nuts. They're much cheaper than buying the 80/20 brackets. They're about probably a little more than half, maybe 40% of the cost of buying it from 80/20. Their supply is a little more limited, so like recently I just ordered some for 10 series aluminum, which I'm going to use for the upper boxes and also the kitchen galley and the sink, and they ran out of them, so I had to order something different that was a little bit more expensive, but still much less than the 80/20. The 80/20 aluminum itself, it's angled, the slot is angled like 2 degrees like that and that, so that when you tighten it down, the aluminum itself acts like a compression spring. So I probably would recommend 80/20 aluminum, the extrusion itself, but for the brackets I would just go with whatever you can do cheap. You can also make your own, but it's cheaper, but it's a lot of time. So you'd have to get angle aluminum, cut it, and then drill it all out. That's a lot of work. Plus with angle aluminum, this isn't going to be rounded like that. That'll give you a little bit more strength than just a regular bracket, but they're fine. I've seen a lot of people using cut their own brackets. And then you would put carriage bolts. You'd use carriage bolts with lock nuts. Carriage bolt will come out this way and lock nut on the back of it. But I'm for ease, so I paid a little extra and got the hardware for it. I use carriage bolts where I can, where it makes sense. Like you can't really do anything with a T-nut bracket here. The carriage bolt was just a simple thing, goes through the hole and tighten it down. My next is to put flooring in this area. I'm also waiting on more 80/20. I didn't order enough, not nearly enough. This was about $500 worth of 80/20, and so I still have to do the shower, and I still have to do the kitchenette. I was going to do it all in this stuff, but I went with the 10 series, which is 1 inch. This is 1.5 inches. The 10 series is about half the cost of this, so use it for things that are not as strength demanding. I wanted this because it's the bed, and both my wife and I are going to be on top of it, so I want to be sure that it's going to support us. Like I said, this will be my battery area. Electronics will be probably over there for like my inverter. So that's my next step. For the flooring, I bought coin flooring. I'm just gonna sweep all of this out here, cut it, and then do all coin flooring that we got from Home Depot. Probably do the walls in coin flooring as well, so it'll just create a nice utility look. I also have a outdoor shower nozzle that's probably going to go there. The pump will feed that directly. I don't plan on bringing hot water to it, just because we'll have the internal shower if we really want that. So when dealing with 80/20, you're going to have cutoffs, and a lot of these you may not think you can use, but just like in my roof rack series, you can tap the end of it, put in an all thread, and then extend. So basically I tap the center hole with a 5/16 18, and then I have a 5/16 18 all thread, and then you just cut the all thread so that it's just slightly short of the distance between both of those. So like if this was 2 inches, I would cut it at 1 3/4 or 1 7/8, something like that, so that you can get them together nice and tight. Now I wouldn't use this for anything structural, because it's probably definitely not as strong as a solid piece, but like for the bottom of my bed there, that area there between the posts, that's not structural. So that's just, it may hold a panel or something, but it's not really, it's not designed to hold any weight or anything. So this will be fine for that. And it gives me a way to use these cutoffs without having to throw them away or discard them. And so making this one here, I'll have to cut it down because it's a little bit too long for that area, but that's probably $30 worth of 80/20. So it's definitely a good investment. So here I have my joined piece together here. This is 4 pieces that I'm put together, but I need to cut it down to the size. And so the bottom of my 80/20 bed frame between the posts is 24 3/4. So I mark 24 3/4, and when I place the saw, I'm going to place it to the opposite end of the cut. So that's exactly 24 3/4. So if I cut on the outside of it, then my piece will be 23 3/4. 24 3/4, sorry. For the blade, I got this off of Amazon. It's a Oshland, a 100 tooth blade designed for aluminum. I think you can use other blades as well. You just need a lot of teeth and you need to go slow. And so I use cutting fluid. I just put like a little drip of it across the front, and that just keeps the blade cool. Same thing for drilling. So here I'm just lining up the blade so that the teeth are just on the other side of the line, and then just a slow plunge through. That's it, nothing to it. Make sure that you are wearing safety glasses, because this is spitting. I mean, I can feel it all up and down my arms. It's spitting these little aluminum pieces all over the place, and you definitely don't want that in your eyes. Okay, so now I'm going to put my 80/20 right in between here. I measured at the top of this so that I know that that's the right size. So before you get it in here and start putting it all together, you got to preload your T-nuts. So this is the T-nut. That little lip goes towards the middle of the 80/20. And it doesn't really matter which way the hole is, because it's oblong shape. So the hole's on one side of the little T-nut. but there's enough room to move it up. So now I just loosen this one up, push the 80-20 nut or the T-nut in there until I can see the hole. And I like to keep them towards the outside of that slot. So this particular bracket has a hole there that doesn't move in a slot here. So put your slot where it's going to be most difficult to align it. So like this one under here, it's real tough to see where that hole is. So I put the slot facing this one so that I can move the screw around to find it. And these are 3/16 Allen wrench. And I like the ones that have the little ball in the end, because you can kind of, sometimes you can get in there at an angle where you couldn't necessarily fit a regular head in there. It just helps. And if you don't feel it tightening up in a couple turns, then you're not aligned. These screws are just barely long enough to get into the T-nut. So sometimes it feels like it should be going in, but it's not. And like I said, the 80-20 has a slight taper in the slot, so where this part here and this part here are slightly tapered in, so that when you tighten it down, it pulls it up like that and it acts like a lock washer. That's a feature of 80-20. I don't know if other manufacturers do that. So that'll help keep your stuff from coming apart.